All right, the owner has given us additional money in the budget to come from one tree that we're doing in an area of his property over here. He reports to us that 2.5 years ago he had 2 dump truck loads of shredded woody bark mulch dumped in this spot, and he wants us now to give an evaluation to him as to the condition of the soil and whether or not there is any additional tree preservation actions in the form of aeration and decompaction, because he has done nothing in the intervening time, and the trees that you see behind me have broken down in storms, and he's suspicious that there's still something missing, and that's what we're here to find out. All right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this surface debris back, find out what exactly he's got down here, and he has indeed got a layer of soil. It doesn't appear to be that thick. Here are some fibrous roots, and so he has been successful at stimulating root growth in this area, but as you can see, it is still very close to the surface, and there's no other competing vegetation around here, so that very likely is a tree root. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stand up and do a compaction test just to see how deep it is, because many times you can get fooled in these areas. It looks great, but it's only about 1 inch or 2 thick, and for trees this size we need a good 6, 8, 9 inches of arable soil that can absorb water, store nutrients, and provide for the long-term growth and maintenance of this tree without us having to spend a lot of money. So let me take my penetrometer. I'm going to push it down. Oh, this is great. Okay, he's done fantastic. All right, he softened it up. He's maintained plenty of water. And now we're going to see how deep the organic matter is. It must be on a rock or a root. I'm going to go back. I'm going to try it one more time over here. Okay, this is a real classic example, because as I told you, we've got the layer that he put in here 2 years ago has now decomposed, and it's in this layer right here that you see. And we've got the rooting that we noted before. There's some of it right there. You can see it. And we push this out of the way, but the rest of it is real sticky, hard packed red clay. It comes out in clumps, and it's not going to be, there's no organic matter in it, there's no growth in it, and what we can tell from looking is that there is no penetration of the roots, and the further down we go, the harder packed it becomes. As you can see here, look at that. It comes out in a plug, and that is good old Carolina red clay. And what we're going to do is make a recommendation to him that he aerate and incorporate this surface to bring this clay into play and make it more a part of the growing medium, so we can stimulate additional root growth and perhaps stop the breakdown during these storms that he's seeing in these big oak trees, because they provide him with shade. They are in a perfect spot to give him the beauty that he needs, and the aesthetic value, and the erosion control, soil formation, and the other ecosystem services. He has a plan to put a swing in one of these things for his daughter, and there's many other things that we need to do to safeguard these trees. We're going to do it now with aeration and decompaction. These are fibrous roots that absorb and help to break down elements so that they're taken up into the tree. You can see where this is a nice big aggregate that's bound together, and that's exactly what we want to see. When we started this aeration and decompaction process with the hub and spoke pattern, it was evident to us that we needed to go forward to the topsoil formation, where you have acquisition, incorporation, and formation. Acquisition of this organic matter was completed 2 years ago when it was dumped here and spread out in the critical root zones of these trees because it was bare dirt. We've got some before footage we'll show you on that as well. And when we began our hub and spoke pattern, these roots were so prolific and they were so obviously within 3 or 4 inches that it became a better action for the owner to do an incorporation where we could stimulate, animate, and accelerate soil formation using our cheap to keep trees and landscape protocol. That's the beauty of the protocol. One action leads right into the next, which can then be related to how they want these trees to perform. He doesn't want them shedding limbs, dropping large branches as they have in the past, and wants them to be safe, beautiful, and a natural part of his property so he can control erosion, so he can save water. There's a big water issue right down below here, which we'll get into in one of our segments. And what we're going to do is stir this and incorporate it using our topsoil tree preservation action, and it's going to be a little bit more money. We had a brief conference with the owner. He decided to do it. $850 for the area that you see here, and we're going to add 2 50-pound bags of Nutrismart, which is a granular lignite with a freeze-dried yeast on the surface of it that releases and helps nutrients already in the soil to break down. So we're getting very close to cheap to keep and safe, which is exactly what the owner asked us to do with this tree. What we're trying to illustrate to all of you contractors and business owners out there, when you begin to use the tree preservation protocols, you're going to find that as you get into it, things will change. They are designed to flow naturally one to the other. Now, this is a perfect example. When we started this job here, it was going to be a simple aeration and decompaction using the hub and spoke pattern, because the owner had told us that there wasn't much organic matter laying on the surface, that most of it had rotted down. When we got here, what we found when we did our aeration and decompaction, our hub and spoke pattern wheels, we found a proliferation of these nice roots. These are the fibrous roots that we look for that are involved in the top part of the soil that he mulched. He said he put it down 2 years ago, and you can see where it has begun to involve this entire horizon of the soil. And after we did our aeration and decompaction, we noticed that if we simply altered our approach and went to a topsoil formation approach where you have acquisition, incorporation, and formation. Acquisition has already been completed. This has been put down 2 years ago and it's rotted. The incorporation is our responsibility now, and what we're going to do is start mixing this soil up so that it begins to mix and begin to form a nice arable surface like this, rather than leaving everything exposed and on the surface like you see here. And this is not the best arrangement here, and so what we'll do is go through and with our stirring method of incorporation, we will stimulate, animate, and accelerate the process of decomposition and make this area of organic matter and clay into topsoil. And we're going to get into this more as we go through. You can even see where we've got earthworms that have formed here. And anytime you find the soil that's alive and moving, you know that you've got a soil medium that is very much the type that you want for your tree roots to grow. And so as we find out, as we discover what the fifth element wants, because they ask us to safeguard the trees, prevent the breakdown, and make it healthy for them to survive long term so they don't have to spend any money, in other words, make it cheap to keep, then we were able to switch gears. We had a brief conference with him. It's going to take a little extra time. We added another $150 onto the invoice altogether. This area here will take about $850 to aerate, decompact, incorporate, and we're going to add a biostimulant of granular Nutrismart in this horizon, and we'll explain more about that in our biostimulant section. But this is what he wants, this is what he's agreed to, and we are willing to change in order to give him the best result possible. One other aspect of discovery of the fifth element's design intent is that there's going to be changes along the way. We are always discovering new conditions that we did not know existed before we started. In this particular job here, we're changing from an aeration and decompaction preservation action to topsoil, where we incorporate. They have already acquired topsoil in this spot, and we need to incorporate it using our topsoiling techniques. And that was a change because we discovered something different. And you're going to find that the value of our protocol and the value of the way these tree preservation actions bleed into one another, one logically into the next, is that they can change and still be in step to accomplish the fifth element's design intent.